Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, or wherever you are in the country, good afternoon, if that's the time zone you're in. We're still in morning time out here in, we're at Charleston View, California. Charleston View, California. I'm looking off to my left at a snow-capped mountain, sitting in the middle of the desert in an automobile. Jeannie is down where we can't get a cell phone signal at the home of Dr. Stephen Andracki and his wife Claudia, who've invited us to be here in Las Vegas and Pahrump, Nevada. They live across on the California line. So here through the medium of modern technology, I'm sitting in the desert talking to you. And I hope my voice is clear. We've got a beautiful day here. We just finished doing a two-day intensive, a mini intensive at Tacoma Springs at a place called Delight Hot Springs, California, which is a pretty awesome place. They have hot tubs you can go in and soak in. And so we did an intensive there with about 20 people this weekend. It was a very powerful happening, lots of good things occurring. And I'm hoping that our friends from England are with us, Les and Jen and Bill and Owen, who are some new friends we've been communicating with via email that are going to be coming to Heartland soon. And if you're there, you could drop a note in the chat room and say hello through Terry and David. We've got a little bit of an awkward situation. Jeannie's operating the switchboard, but she can't be on the phone because there's no phone signal. So be a little patient with us as we relay communications back and forth. If our friends from England are on the show, that would be awesome, because they sent us an email after listening to Friday's show on the healing process, and they had some questions. So I told them that I would answer those questions on the show today, and this show would probably be titled, what to do if you're coming to Heartland, because this is going to be about some of the things that happen in Heartland. David, are you with us this morning?
I am, Michael. I am. Can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I can see clearly now.
Good. Glad to hear that. Yeah, well, I'm not sure who's all on this morning, or if there's anyone in the chat room or online that is interested in some conversation and some questions and answers about Heartland and what's going on. We did have our Building the Brain Cells teleconference last night, and several people were on that, and I'm hoping that a couple of people that were on last night might check in today and let us know how they're doing with their progress on building the brain cells, building success. And that's where I'm at. That's what's going on here.
Cool. Well, maybe you want to just say a little bit about the Building the Brain Cells game so people know what you're talking about. And if anybody's new to the show, I'm Michael Rice. If you don't know me, I'm out here traveling around the country, and David's back there. He's our center manager taking care of Heartland along with Terry and Julie and getting it ready for our summer season. But tell us a little bit about Building the Brain Cells, David, and maybe our friends in England would like to play Building the Brain Cells too.
Yes, well, if anyone is interested, you can go to the website, www.whyagain.com, and click on Brain Cells. It'll take you to a PowerPoint presentation, or you can just read about it. And we came up with this a couple of years ago. One of the challenges that I have had throughout my healing and learning and is always to have the support. Many times, Michael, I would go to a seminar or go to a workshop, read a book, listen to a tape or a video, and then how did I apply it? How could I keep the information going? One of the things that you talk about when you first do your workshop is that, it's a 2.5-hour workshop. There's no way in order to teach everything that you would like to be able to teach in that time frame. And so it's just really about triggering and firing off the information, resonating some brain cells to get people stimulated, and then how do we put it into practice? And the repetition of doing the worksheets and using the tools each day is what's important. And so we came up with this game of building the brain cells, where you make a commitment to do a certain number or minimum number of worksheets each day and a couple of other exercises, and then confirm with someone that you have completed your agreements for that day. And it's just important that we do that. It looks like, and so that's what's going on with it. Oh, we have a caller from area code 607. So whoever that is, Jeannie, you want to let them in now?
Area code 607. Give us your name and where are you calling from? Hello, 607. You're on the air.
Well, we've been not quite on the air yet. Well, we'll keep seeing what's going on. As Michael said, we're having a little bit of a challenge with getting the technology worked out here. So whenever that we can, Jeannie, if you can hear, just to go ahead and let me tell Terry to do that.
Cool. Well, and the building the brain cells game is about, in this work, when I talk about building the brain cells, I'm not talking about building new physical structure. I'm talking about storing new information in your cellular structure. When you get down to it, the mind functions through every cell in the body, and the quality of information stored in every cell affects the quality and the function of the cell. And so in this computer, what we hold and the quality of energies we hold in the cell, and therefore in our mind, affect the process of the cell. And the forgiveness process, as we're teaching it from the Aramaic, is the way to remove from the cell those energies that don't belong, the thoughts, the feelings, the upset, the pain, the trauma, and the drama, to be able to begin to let go and let loose, so that we come back to our true design nature, and that is the active presence of love. If you're not familiar with the work, you don't know what we're talking about with if you're new to the show, with the forgiveness process, you can go to our website. Jeannie is the webmaster and does an awesome job. And our website is www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. Click on that link if you would. And then the first two links, one of them is an explanation of how to do the forgiveness process, and the other one is the worksheet itself. And so you'll be on the track to using the forgiveness process. And David, one of the things you triggered in me as you were talking about the building the brain cells game and how people go to workshops.
Michael, pardon me, Michael. I think we have the caller available now. 607, are you on?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Give us a name and where are you calling from?
It's Richard. I was
Richard.
Yes, I was at Heartland last week.
Oh, awesome.
Hello,
Welcome,
Richard.
Where did you must be in Kansas City?
I'm driving, and I'm in Wyoming right now. So if I lose you, it's because of the weather or whatever.
So how is your journey going, Richard? And how's the aftermath of your visit to Heartland?
Well, it's going well, and again, I appreciate Michael's work. It's wonderful work, and certainly I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to heal their pain, so to speak.
Well, Terry was certainly very excited about what you brought to Heartland with the bamboo frames and such that you're using to create buildings with and greenhouses. That sounds like a really awesome idea, and we're certainly going to move in the direction of seeing how that can be integrated into the experimental things we're doing with greenhouses, with buildings, and especially I think you and David talked about the basalt. So it's kind of an exciting new twist to the whole process of what we're experimenting with at Heartland. Delighted that you came to share it with us.
Well, I'm happy to share it too, and as your words, I'm happy to share it too.
Cool. So how are your worksheets going?
How are my worksheets going? They're going great. I didn't get a chance listened in much last night, but I think the hardest part for people is to, recognize what they're feeling and to honestly let go of it during that first section where it says, let go, and, let go that needs to be right and all that stuff.
It is certainly a practice. I like to use a comparison of, the old parlor game where you squeeze a broomstick as tight as you can for 3 minutes and then try to open your hand, and it doesn't open. And if we've been emotionally, mentally, physically clutching onto things for decades and perhaps generations, it takes a little work in practice to be able to get to open your those places where the letting go needs to happen. And that's why we suggest that you regularly use the worksheet process to open that space. So it's awesome, and that's why that's what the building the brain cells do.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Cool. Well, anything particular to share about your journey to Heartland or the worksheet process itself?
Well, I like what you're doing at Heartland, and seriously considering retiring there.
Awesome.
Terry's got me interested in this place there, so I'm seriously thinking about it. I'd love to learn more about your work, and hopefully more as time progresses, I'll have time to work with you and learn more from you. Awesome. Well, thank you for your visit there and everything you were willing to share, and we'll look forward. We've talked several times, but we haven't gotten face to face yet, and I'll look forward to when we can get face to face and meet. There you go. Thank you. All right, Richard, thanks for your call. Blessings. Safe journeys. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Namaste.
Namaste.
So one of the things that I was just starting to say that you triggered, David, is in the codependence to interdependence video, one of the things we talk about is the pseudo-solutions of the non-being mind. And one of the pseudo-solutions, there's several things that the non-being mind, that is the mind based in hostility or fear, the self that is not the true self but is a false self, believes will work. And, some of those are, if I could just figure this out, if I could just control everybody and keep them away from my pain, which, of course, doesn't work. None of the pseudo-solutions work. But one of them is that of struggling to make up for a non-being life because we have been taught by our culture to let go of our true human lives. And, of course, how do you establish what a human life is? Hold a newborn child, you know exactly what a human life is. And we live in a culture that instantly goes to work on the newborn in removing it from its human life, that is the active presence of love, and teaches that child all the cultural dynamics of punishment and fear and hostility and rage and guilt and blame and all those games that take over and cause us to lose our human lives. So that non-being minds, not having the satisfaction of an actual life, is always searching for something, looking for love in all the wrong places. And the game of trying to make up for, struggling to make up for that non-being life has created our consumer society. Well, if I could just get more stuff, then I'd be happy. If I could just, here's the basic law of the non-being mind in that regard, and it says, he who dies with the most toys wins. And my offering to people is, he who dies with the most toys is dead. You're not here to die. You're here to live a human life. And so what happens when we get into this struggling to make up for a non-being life is we gather things, and there's a short-term sensation when you've got something new in your hand that acts like a drug. And so that drug, of course, doesn't last. That high doesn't last very long, and so the humdrum pain of existence, the trauma that's underneath it all, soon prompts us to, if we're living that style of solution, soon prompts us to gather to get another thing and another possession. And people who live in that game are into debt so deep, so far over their heads, they'll have a great deal of difficulty climbing out. But one aspect of it is people who go to workshops, and they're playing that the same game. Well, I'll get another tool. Well, I know about this, and I know about this. Well, I know about that. Oh, I did that workshop. I already know about that. Well, I already know about forgiveness. I already know. But the question isn't, do you know about it? The question isn't, did you gather it and put it in your closet with all the other stuff that you gathered to try to make up for a non-being life? The question is, have you used it? And, David, I really appreciate your sourcing this idea of building the brain cells and having people commit to doing 1 worksheet a day or 5 worksheets a day. And, you know, I love what happened for Terry after 3.5 years of playing the Building the Brain Cells game, starting out with 1 worksheet a day and then upping it to 5 worksheets a day. And I think it was just a little over 3 years that Terry was doing 5 worksheets a day. And a couple of months ago, he contacted me and said, I'm getting to such new levels and such important stuff, I'm going to up my commitment to 10 worksheets a day. And after 3 years of 5 a day, this is not a project for wimps. It's not a short-term project. It's a major piece of work to look in there and to be willing to go through what it is that we hold. And so it is cool and awesome, David, that you came up with, pardon me, that system for supporting people and having them check back in and be accountable for their commitment to do those worksheets. It's very powerful.
Well, thank you, Michael. And it has been a process. And actually, one of the callers that was on last night, and I don't know if she's listening in or not, Christina, then she's a perfect model for showing exactly what it is that we're going to be processing through. You know, it's a challenge to do this work, and you know what? It's a challenge to live in a world of disharmony and all of the anxiety and the stress and so forth. And in comparing to that, then there really isn't any. It's the only thing to be doing. And just to let you know that we have Julie on the line. That I don't know if she's already been paged in. Are you there, Julie? Well, let's see. She was in the line anyway. So whenever that you want to, Terry, would you have Jeannie tell Julie what's your name? Anyway,
let me just cover a couple of Les and his family's questions from England, because they're getting ready to get on an airplane and head over here and spend 3 months at Heartland. And so a couple of the questions that they asked, the first one was that they were on the radio show Friday listening to the topic of healing crisis. And the questions were, or comment, he started out saying it would be a fair estimation that as a family we're pretty addicted to processed foods, the type you can get at this local supermarket. And so we're interested in knowing what preparation could begin, if any, to get ready for Heartland. And so people are coming to Heartland. What we suggest is that you drop all drugs. And that means drugs like sugar, caffeine, nicotine, or any of the culture's illegal drugs, if you happen to be using them, and the legal ones. Now, of course, if somebody has a medication that they're on, that's between the doctor and them. We don't try to influence what people are doing in that regard. But what we suggest is if you're on any of the standard culture drugs, junk food, what have you, that you let go of those and start to replace it with whole foods. And whole foods means things that actually grow in the ground. Interestingly enough, many people think that food comes from a supermarket, and that's part of our citified life. You know, living in the cities, food actually comes from the ground. It doesn't come from the supermarket. So one of the first one is to start to fill up your plate with fresh fruits and vegetables. There are some recipes on our website that you can tap into. And the food at Heartland is absolutely awesome. There are people who come back year after year one of the main reasons is for the food. And, of course, Chef Ari, I don't know if he happens to be listening today, but Chef Ari is just an awesome person with this wealth of knowledge. And if you're listening in, Les and the family, you're going to get some exposure to Ari and the wealth of information that he is. But simply dropping the drugs and starting to do more fresh fruits and vegetables, salads, and or maybe lightly steaming foods can be a powerful step in moving forward. And, of course, to withdraw from some of the culture's drugs is a challenge. Caffeine usually leads to, for most people, to a lot of headaches. And so you might shift, transition yourself and shift from, if you're drinking regular caffeinated coffee, to decaf. Of course, when they say decaf, it's not really decaf. It is lower caffeine. By the way, you've heard what happens when a cow gives birth, what they call it? They call it decaffeinated. I couldn't resist. I apologize to everybody. Excuse me. But a regular cup of coffee has anywhere from 60 to 80 milligrams of caffeine. Decaf coffee has 30 to 40 milligrams. So there's still a fair bit of caffeine there. But transitioning to that, and then maybe finding in the health food stores and such, even some of the regular grocery stores, there are some coffee substitute beverages that are roasted barley, different roasted things that kind of give that coffee fullness and taste, but don't have the caffeine. That can be a good substitute. And so it goes on to say, caffeine's a big deal for me. Drink lots. And we'll invite you to start giving that up. I know that's a challenge. I used to be in the restaurant business. I used to do 3-4 pots of coffee a day, and I can't remember the last time I had a cup of coffee. Once in a while I'll taste it just to remind myself, because I, of course, enjoyed the taste, but I don't think I've had a full cup of coffee in I don't know how many years. And water, one of the questions that Les asks is drinking water. You want to find water that's purified. The stuff with chlorine in it really throws the thyroid gland off because it knocks out the iodine, and chlorine and iodine are in the same family. And so there's a tendency for there to be some problems in that regard. So a really good purified water. And generally speaking, it seems if you're not eating a water-based diet, which means a raw food diet, because when you cook food, you drive the water out of it. If you're not eating a raw food diet, it's a good idea to do about an ounce for every every 2 pounds of body weight. An ounce for every 2 pounds of body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, 100 ounces a day is a pretty good quantity of water to drink. And you want to drink the water not with meals, but finish drinking your water at least a half an hour before a meal, so that you're able to digest properly. You're not watering down digestive secretions. And wait for an hour and a half to 2 hours if you've had a light meal, a little longer if you've had a heavy meal, to drink any more water. And what we suggest is, and this comes out of the work of Paul Bragg, who was one of my mentors, a naturopath that was supposed to be dead at the age of 17 of tuberculosis and did a nature cure. Never drank anything but distilled water until the day he drowned off of a beach in Hawaii, was resuscitated, and 3 months later succumbed to a lung infection. Paul Bragg drowned off the beach because he called and asked for help, and the people who saw him knew him, and he was known as the strongest swimmer on the beach. He must be joking. Unfortunately, he wasn't joking and did drown. But I haven't seen many people who promote other ways of drinking water and such. And what Paul would say is you have to earn your first meal of the day, so you don't get up and stuff your face. You get at least the first quart and a half, maybe even 2 quarts of water in your body before you have any food. And, of course, you don't just gulp it down. Just as, here I am out in the desert, and if there was a huge rainstorm, virtually all of the water would rush off or run off. Very little would actually get into the ground. But if you took the same quantity of water and over a period of hours gently sprinkled it on the desert, it would soak in and nourish the soil. your body is soil. It's the same thing. You want to drink it over time, sip a little bit at a time, and keep that water moving. So that would be what we'd suggest you do there. And, of course, fresh fruit and vegetables, if they're raw, are water-based. And so if you do a lot of that, you can cut back on the quantity of water. And let's see if I've got any other questions here from Les. You're saying that there's perhaps some high blood pressure, and I would suggest whatever you're doing medically that you continue to do that until you see things start to change. And we'll be doing some breath work when you get to Heartland, so you'll become acquainted with the breathing processes that we suggest there. And so there are some of the changes you can make coming to Heartland, and kids come to Heartland, and sometimes it's a challenge. We see some kids who just go, yay, wow, this is great, and love the food, and other kids who have been, kind of spoiled with, I eat whatever I want to eat. And one of the things I think mistakes our culture makes is we teach children to eat for taste. And because the food manufacturers know that, they put things that genetically stimulate, this is food and nutrition, particularly sugar, into the food. Basically the way you can tell whether a food is ripe or not is how much sugar is there in it. And so high sugar content means, this is ripe and there are lots of nutrients. So the manufacturers of food have taken advantage of that, and, I forget, we're close to 100 pounds a year that people eat of sugar, and so they have totally nutrition-free food. I mean, there have been experiments with cereal where they fed the rats boxes that the cereal came in, and the rats that ate the boxes did better than the rats that ate the cereal because, of course, they weren't being poisoned by the sugar. So it's a trick to put sugar in something to get the body to remember, this is what nutrition tastes like, and to actually start eating real whole foods. And we suggest organic foods are a good way to do it. And sometimes one of the things that happens with kids who come to Heartland is there's a time period where, when you're hungry, you'll eat. And we serve good, wholesome, nutritious food. And once kids come off of the addicted tastes of the sugar, the chemicals that are put in food, and they detox some of those chemicals, they tend to love the food that we serve at Heartland. So that, I think, pretty much covers the questions that we have, unless, Les, if you're on the show, if you're on the chat room, if you have any other questions, we'd love to share them with you, or answers with you. So do you want to ask Jeannie if there is anything else in there from the People's family?
Are you there, Michael?
I'm here.
Michael, it's Tim. They have multiple questions in the chat room. How do I forgive? What is Aramaic? How do I forgive my parents and God? I'm so angry with God. Why can't I forgive God?
Oh, wow. Great questions. Great questions. All right. Well, first of all, the reason you can't forgive God is because it's impossible to forgive God. The reason it's difficult to forgive your parents is because it's impossible to forgive your parents, and I suggest that you never forgive your parents and you never forgive God because you can't. Well, Michael, what are you talking about? I was told I have to forgive everybody. Yeah, that's why our culture's in such a mess. You were told you have to forgive everybody. And what happened is that the ancient Aramaic language, and the Aramaic language is the root language of at least 5 of the world's major religions, not because it's a religious language, but because it's a physics language, it's a psychological language, it's a genetic language, it's an energy systems language. And in that language, when you invited someone to forgive, it wasn't about letting them off the hook, the Greek idea of pardoning. In this culture we're taught, you did something so terrible and caused all this pain inside of me and rage, and I'll be big about it, I'll forgive you. And now, that has nothing to do with forgiveness, folks. That's called pardoning, letting somebody off the hook. Nice thing to do. It can unhook that person from your pain, and your relationship may seem to move forward, but then you'll just have to find somebody else to put your pain and your anger on. My offering is that the reason that you're experiencing anger has nothing to do with your parents or with God. It's because there is anger in your tissue structure. It's in your cellular structure. And anger, being a drug, is a way to anesthetize against our pain. The depth of our pain will tend to reflect in the level of our anger. And so we suggest that you go to the website, and it's www.whyagain.com. Go to the website. On the right-hand side, click the link that says Download Worksheets. First two links under that section are the explanation of the forgiveness process and the Reality Management Forgiveness Worksheet. We suggest that you download those and start to do it. And you apply forgiveness not to your parents, not to God, not to yourself, but to those painful realities in your mind, to your anger. And as you do that, you'll begin to dissolve those painful realities. You'll be free of them, and then you'll be able to resolve around parents, God, or whatever object of attention you point that at. And so that's the long and short of it. Forgiveness has nothing to do with letting other people off the hook.
Okay, Michael, you have two callers. Julie Haverstick is on, and a caller from area code 765.
Okay. Well, probably it is Reverend Jane at 765, so maybe we could just tap in with Reverend Jane because we had a plan to have some conversation with Julie. So if that's Lady Jane, are you with us at 765?
Yeah, that's me, Michael.
Well, hey there, young lady. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Now, I was going to question this.
I'm out here lost in the desert, spending my 40 days.
Okay. Well, that'll be good for you.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I was going to question on that steaming food that you were talking about at Heartland, because I never saw anything steaming food down there at all.
No, you're right. I actually, if that's how it came across, what I had meant to say, if I made an error there, was that in transitioning, we suggested people might do some lightly steamed foods for coming to Heartland and getting ready for fresh and raw.
Well, I know I've steamed some food for you in your lifetime, but I know when I was down there wasn't any.
Yes.
I was just teasing you, Michael.
That was a transition thought.
Okay, got it. Okay, now another announcement that I want to make, that I just now wrote your tithing check. And the reason I bring it up on the air, that I want to encourage people, this isn't a paid political announcement. It's nothing you've told me to say. But I still encourage people that get their help from you to think in terms, whatever crosses their mind, to send to you because it helps, Heartland. And it helps you. And if people don't know about it, I found if people don't know about it, they don't think about it.
Right.
I'm just encouraging people to do that because in my tithing to you, I have always been able to pay my bills, and the economy hasn't affected me as long as I tithe. And it's just important, and it works. The law really works.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, Jane, how you bring that up every once in a while. It's a topic I kind of just stay away from.
I know.
And I appreciate how you tap in and bring it up and invite that support. And people can go to our website, and on the right-hand side there's a donate button they can click on and do a donation that supports us. When we travel, all our travel workshops are free. We pay our own expenses. And those tithes certainly help to keep us on the road and keep it moving forward. And, achieving our goal of ultimately every mind, heart, and being on the planet.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing Julie, and I always like to hear Tim, whatever he has to say, and David, and all of you. So I'll just click off now. But one more thing. You're still at Connie's, and it goes out to Connie's today, right?
Yes. We're still there. We're actually out in the desert today, but we'll be heading back there a little later today.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Eddie, we love you and appreciate you.
You too. Bye.
Love. So, Julie, good morning, or actually, I guess it's afternoon there. We're in one time zone, and you're a couple over, so you're a little later than we are.
Yeah, that is correct.
How are you doing with your healing crisis?
I'm doing better. I'm still got the cough, but and a little bit of the fever off and on, but I'm doing much better. And it's been an interesting event, and and it feels really like I'm getting lighter. That's the best way to describe when you get done with a healing crisis or even done with an intensive is that you feel lighter, you feel happier, and more connected, So that's kind of happening now, and I just kind of had a really blissful evening with a feeling of energy of being real connected to Source. So that was nice. And it was nice
cool.
to know.
That's awesome. It's an awesome piece of the fruit of your work, and I acknowledge you for all the years you've been working at it and every layer that you've gone through. And oftentimes the process of healing involves the release of a lot of old mucus, and people say, well, how can I possibly have that much mucus in my body? Well, if you took what in its solidified form, when it's solidified in the body, what might fill the tip of your baby finger, and you were to liquefy that, you'd probably have about an 8-ounce cup. And so, and mucus is a thing that protects. It's a lubricant when it's thin, but then it thickens to trap toxicity to keep it out of the cells. And then when it dries out, it holds that toxicity and tends to lay between the cells in the tissue structure. And so a lot of times, when you see people as they get older, they just kind of tend to balloon a little bit. Well, that's really dried, hardened mucus in the tissue. And, of course, you don't get that out until you're vital enough to do it, and you engage in things like fasting and cleansing processes to liquefy that. And when you liquefy it, somebody who's got 10 pounds of hardened mucus in the body is probably going to end up doing maybe 150, 200 pounds of release. So there's some stuff to go through, and of course, when it's being released, it is a breeding ground. If there are any kind of decay bacteria around, that's where it will tend to feed. So you want to clean that out and get it out of your structure as quickly as possible, and that's where the lemon water and cayenne pepper and maple syrup come in. So, and you've been doing your share of that recently, haven't you, Julie?
Pardon me?
I say you've been doing your share of the lemon, cayenne, and maple syrup recently.
I actually just got finished with one. But speaking of which, prior to this whole thing, I did a colon cleanse and then a liver gallbladder cleanse, and 15 weeks of juice fasting for at least 2 meals. So there's been a lot of, along with the spiritual work, a lot of prep for. Which I wasn't even thinking about the healing, crisis. But when I look back now, there was a lot to, create this.
Powerful. Well, doing the right things definitely raises vitality and allows us to get that next level out. That's one of the keys. And if you're listening, folks in England, that's going to be one of the ideas of the whole program and process at Heartland is to support you in becoming vitalized, throwing off what does not belong, and integrating more and more of the active presence of love. And by the way, if you are on the chat room, we certainly are looking forward to what you're going to bring to share with us with the work you've been doing with community. And Les and his family have been working with community building. And so with the community aspect of what we're working at Heartland and the development of the building projects and such, it's going to be awesome to have you there to share your community building skills. And we'll be delighted to hear more about that process.
So, Michael, Les is listening. He didn't hear all of your talk before, but he will keep listening, and he asks about is fresh fruit juicing good, and is it also a good method of diet?
Juicing is excellent because it takes a tremendous amount of energy to digest food, and so when you juice, and you don't want to do too much in the way of fruit. You want to balance it because the fruit can tend to be pretty intense in sugar, but things like carrot juice, which also can be intense with sugar, but you can add things like celery to it, beet greens. There's a wide variety of things. I'm not sure whether we've got any juicing recipes on the website. I'll check with Jeannie, and maybe we can get some of our Heartland juicing recipes. But the juices extract the nutrients, and they're in a more easily digestible form. So less work for the digestive system leaves more energy for the structure to cleanse and clean itself of those wastes. And as Julie just said, you might go to the health food store and find a good colon cleansing product. And as you cleanse the colon oftentimes gets lined with old mucoid plaque that blocks things up. And as you cleanse that out, it's certain herbs that help to soften and liquefy those old hardened deposits and clean them out. So that's definitely another piece in the puzzle of cleansing.
There's another comment in the chat room saying that let's talk about healing crisis. I recently took a Reiki attunement class and experienced a one-day flu, which is impossible. What is the body releasing? And then there was a question about being more specific about the lemon water and cayenne pepper and maple syrup.
Okay, cool. Well, when you take something like a class that empowers you, you get to a new level of vitality. And we're not going to go through the whole healing crisis thing again because we did that on Friday. And I think Jeannie's got it posted to the website. If not, it'll be posted within the next day or so. So you can go back and download the archive of that from our website and listen to that again. We went in depth into what healing looks like. So we invite you to do that. But when you hit a new level of vitality, what happens is you have the strength to reach into a new depth of what you need to process out. And in processing that out, they call it the flu, and it's supposed to be a disease. They're never going to cure the flu. They're never going to cure the so-called common cold because neither of those things is a disease process. Each of those things is a body vital enough to throw off what doesn't belong. And, you've got a house, and it's pretty, and it's nice, and everything's in its place. But when you do spring cleaning, things get pretty messy, right? Things get out of place, the dust flies, and, it's laying on the counters where, usually the counters are clean. You start to stir those things up. And in precisely the same way, when you become more vital and stronger, you can reach into a depth of stirring and cleansing, and you'll go through the symptoms of healing, the symptoms of release. And as far as the lemon and cayenne, interesting, virtually every fruit and vegetable has an atomic structure that rotates to the right. Lemons are the only fruit that I know of that has what they call a lateral rotary atomic structure. That is, it turns the other way. And that seems to have something to do with its ability to go in and cleanse. It's kind of like that rotor-rooter idea. It has a different energy about it that tends to loosen and open things up. It's a very alkalizing food, although logically you'd say, wait a minute, lemons are acid. No, actually, the alkalizing effect comes from the ash after the body burns it. So while lemons are acid outside of the body, when the body digests it, what it leaves behind is a powerful alkalizing effect, which helps to clean out old acid deposits in the body. And then the cayenne pepper, the mucus tends to, when it dries and hardens, there are these mucoprotein bonds that kind of lock up, and they're difficult to break. And so the hotter you can take that drink of lemon and cayenne, the cayenne goes in and breaks those mucoprotein bonds. I've seen many people over the years who, get one of those flus that hangs on. Gee, I'm coughing still 3 months later and bringing up phlegm. That's because the body's saying, I still have stuff to get rid of. And when I've informed those people about the lemon, cayenne, and maple syrup drink, they use it for a couple of days, and geez, all of a sudden my flu that's hung on for months is gone because they supported the body in opening the eliminative channels and letting go. So a lemon in a large glass of warm, not hot water, because you want the enzymes in the lemon to be alive. So you don't want to go over 105 degrees. and then just a little bit of maple syrup, and you want to get the cheapest maple syrup you can, low grade, B grade, C grade, because the A grade maple syrup, they refine, and refining means you're taking nutrients out. So you want to get the lowest grade of maple syrup that you can and add, because there are a lot of minerals in maple syrup, you want to add a little bit of that maple syrup to your drink, makes it very tasty, and adds minerals to your body as you're cleansing. You know, when you look at how they process maple syrup, now it is, of course, a cooked food, but what happens is they take hundreds and hundreds of gallons of sap from a tree and boil it down until it becomes this concentrated syrup. So it's very intense in minerals and nutrients. So that can help. If somebody has blood sugar problems, you can get stevia. And stevia is an herb that is an excellent sweetener, and if you have blood sugar problems, the stevia will help to balance the pancreas and bring it back to vitality and function. So that's the idea of the lemon, cayenne, and maple syrup. Or, again, if you have blood sugar problems, stevia drink.
Okay, we have about 15 minutes left. You want to go back to Julie and finish up her comment?
What I'd like to do is see what else Julie has to share with us. Young lady?
Yeah, well, Michael, what I would like to share is that, you know, I've been in intensive every year since you opened up Heartland, and I highly recommend that if somebody is going to understand everything that you're sharing, that they go to an intensive and, you know, learn what their life is going to be like when they start doing their healing, and learn more tools, more ways to handle the stress of you know, their daily life, and how to, you know, reduce their stress. And you know, Heartland's is a great place for people to you know, to do that process. And I was thinking the other day, just that there's so many things that I have benefited from Heartland, but I think the biggest is that I have a different life. You know, I have different perception. I have different consciousness, and unless you might not even know that there's an opportunity to have different consciousness. So my highest thought would be is to, you know, take some time for yourself and, you know, commit to doing an intensive and come out and learn about how to do healing, actual real healing. I wanted to say that.
Yeah, well, I certainly support the idea. There's that ancient African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And certainly when a group of people comes together and moves things in a certain direction, they definitely add to each other's vitality. There's this empowering effect when you're in your process and somebody's sitting next to you who's in the same process, and you know, maybe when you get into your resistance and unwillingness, that person holds the space of willingness that supports you. And you know, it's so awesome to watch how people come together and the process that happens between people as they start to move through those things that are less than love. And of course, aside from the teaching that I do in the intensive, you get the benefit of Julie, who's the worksheet queen. I mean, I don't know, Julie, do you have any estimate of how many worksheets you've done over the last 22, 23 years?
No, it's just in thousands. If you figure I did 5 a day for years and years and years and years and years, because I made that commitment when you said do 5 a day for 40 days, and you said you'll see a difference, and I saw a difference, and I just continued to do it. It just became part of, you know, like you brush your teeth. So, you know, I have no idea how many I have done, and, you know, I continue, you know, to use the tool because it's a very powerful tool. And I asked you a long time ago about that tool, and you said, well, just take you straight to God. And I liked that answer. So what I was really getting is going to delete that carbon-based memory, you know, that, you know, we are functioning out of probably now, and return to our rightful place.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, that's it. It's right on track, Julie. And, you know, people will say, well, gee, it sounds hard. I'm going to have to move from my way of hostility and fear and self-protection and victimhood, it sounds really hard to live that other way. And my offering to people is, well, actually living in hostility or fear because it's an old habit and it's come to us genetically and environmentally, it pretty much is what our culture does. Living in that is effortless because it's automatic, but it's a hard way to live. It is a tough way to relate and to get along in the world. And it takes effort to do your work. It takes effort to wash your mind and clean it of the garbage of the generations. And the task is one of literally taking on 1,000 generations and cleaning up whatever's in there and being willing to face it and to move and work through it is an absolutely awesome process. And in the same way, I'll kind of jokingly when people say, well, gee, how long do I have to do this? It's like, is there anybody who says, I have showered every day of my life that I can remember, and so I think I've probably taken enough showers, and I'm going to stop now. Of course, nobody would do that because you know that pretty soon you're going to start to stink. And people who live in hostility or fear on a mental level stink. It's a stinking way to live. And if it's an old habit, it's going to take time to get rid of the stinking thinking, literally, to go in. And you have to come to the point, as Julie said, Julie, I agree with you, where you have to wash your mind every day. And every time any form of hostility or fear comes up, you start flushing that out of your structure. It's the same as washing your armpits, You get rid of the stuff that keeps you in cycles that are less than life-producing, let's say.
Yeah, I agree. I don't actually think it's a very hard journey to make. It's just one that you just make. You just decide that, hey, I choose to be happy. I choose to be peaceful, and I choose to, have a say in my life rather than live with a predestined program. I mean, we're living with repetitive patterns of behavior, and it's like saying, okay, you know what? I've lived with these repetitive patterns of behavior for a long time, and they're not really getting me where I want to go, and I truly want to live a different life, and so just put one foot in front of the other, and God will take you to great places. Yep. You'll find you're much more peaceful.
Yep. And it works. It's about
yep.
what works.
Absolutely.
It isn't a religious journey. It's about what works, and yeah, it does take effort. There's no question about it. The other is effortless. It's easy to be in the old patterns of hostility and fear, and one of the other benefits, as you kind of alluded to there, Julie, is that instead of just playing out the patterns, you become a conscious creator of what happens in your life. You become a conscious creator of what happens in your physiology. You're not pushed back and forth by the world and what's going on around you. You deal with what's inside of you, and then you initiate what you choose to live out of rather than just living the old dynamics.
Yeah, and here's another one, though. You also find out that there are certain laws to life. When you come to Heartland, you will find out that the law of cause and effect is very real, and that there are certain laws that if you understand how life works, then you can work your life. Otherwise, you're just kind of like fluctuating with and hoping it's going to work out. It's sort of like taking a hold of the steering wheel and like say, okay, we're going to move forward. It's different.
Yeah, when you start looking at that word law, and so many people are repelled by the idea of law and rules because they've been taught that law is the rule of a superior and that the superior is going to bully them into doing something whether they like it or not. And I like to use the example of how many here would want to be asleep in your new house at 3 a.m. when the power is first turned on after you had my great-great-grandmother wire the house. Probably nobody would want to be asleep in that house because my great-great-grandmother doesn't know anything about the laws of electricity and therefore does not have the liberty to work within that venue, within that arena. And she would probably create some very serious problems if she tried. And people who find themselves in serious problems in their lives don't understand the laws by which their lives live. And people talk about breaking the law. first of all, law is not the rule of a superior, and secondly, you can't break a law. The laws are a result of eternal forces, and they're just the way it works. And if you don't know how it works, then you find yourself bumping and banging, getting pushed around because of your avoidable collisions with law. Strictly speaking, a law cannot be broken. It's not possible to break a law. You could break man's rules and regulations. The speed limit's 55, you do 65. They say, I broke the law. No, you didn't. You broke a rule made by a man. But you can't break the rules made by the eternal forces. Laws in the world of eternal forces are not things to be obeyed. Laws happen. Gravity happens. You don't have to obey gravity. Gravity happens. You step off a cliff and gravity happens. You didn't break or disobey the law of gravity if you stepped off the cliff and went 2,000 feet down. There's a consequence. Bones break. There isn't some great punisher in the sky that says, should we break the bones on this one that's falling this 2,000 feet or not? Law happens. And we get broken when we come into avoidable collision with the law. Once you understand the laws, then those avoidable collisions become easy, and the law itself sustains no fracture when we bump into it. It's we who get broken. And the whole idea is to stop bumping and breaking ourselves against these eternal forces and learning how to harmonize and work within them and have a life of liberty. It's an awesome process when you understand those laws and you function within them. It creates a whole different experience than what the common game is on planet Earth today. And of course, one of the courses that we do is a 16-day intensive on laws of living. There's a page manual, and we go through the whole process of looking at these eternal forces and coming to understand how to harmonize with them and how to remove the energies from ourselves, that is, forgive those energies that are unlike law, so that we can see and comprehend how it works and then, play within it and have the liberty that comes from understanding how the eternal forces operate. So that's a good point, Julie. Thank you for bringing it up.
Well, you're welcome, because I was going to say, why don't you give that plug on the Laws for Living, because that's a fabulous, absolutely fabulous course, especially since we get a book to take home with us. And so I'm going to hang up. We're getting near the end, and it's been my pleasure to be part of the radio show.
Thank you, Julie, for calling in, and please, anytime you have the space and the inclination, we would love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie.
Right.
Bye.
So, Michael, we had some comments from Les. They're looking forward to getting to Heartland. He can't wait. He said that they're looking forward to the best year yet of their eternal lives, and he feels like he's going to return to the UK a lot healthier. He also said it sounds like the best inheritance for his kids, too, so he's getting excited.
Absolutely. I join you in that excitement, and we're excited and delighted you're coming to be with us and what we're going to learn from you, too. And by the way, with Julie talking about the intensives, Heartland, we do a 65-day intensive each summer, and of course that's if we have enough people in each intensive. With the economy being the way it is, the last couple of years we've had a couple of intensives that we have canceled because there just hasn't been sufficient participation. But Heartland runs, if you're interested in intensive, and you can look at the schedule on the website. Heartland runs $175 a day for everything: food, accommodations, workshops, workshop materials, everything. And the kind of food that we serve, we spent some time, Jeannie and I spent some time out in California a couple of years ago, and we would get a dessert at a vegetarian restaurant, and that dessert would be $8. And that $8 dessert, we serve 100 times that every day in terms of the food we serve. And, the kind of food we serve at Heartland, if you went to the average decent restaurant, you'd be spending over $100 a day in just food, easily. And so we have this gourmet food that's included. And if money's a problem for you, we do a work support program. If you jump on the website, you'll see a work support program describes it. And you can come to Heartland. You can come to Heartland. You can do work programs, support us in whatever needs to be done. And, of course, what needs to be done is anything that you could imagine needing to be done on a property with 15 buildings and 67 acres. So there's always lots to do. And so money is not a requirement, and or we also do partial work support programs and partial payment programs. So we're delighted that you're with us today. We're delighted to have the privilege of being able to serve you and support you in the process of forgiveness and learning how that works and moving through whatever there is in you that's unlike love. We invite you to please get somebody else to come on the show with you tomorrow. Join us. Share your comments and questions. Call in and talk to us. The number's on the website. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. We'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Blessings.